Here's the good news about the Bears. Virginia McCaskey is still amongst us. 101 years old. She was at Hallis Hall yesterday for the Brian Piccolo Award. The Brian Piccolo Award's handed out to players who show courage, loyalty, teamwork, dedication, and good humor. And T.J. Edwards and Darnell Wright were the winners. And Virginia McCaskey was there. She's an amazing woman. She really is an incredible lady.
Yeah.
The bad news is the Bears want $2 billion taxpayer dollars.
Your money.
Governor Pat Quinn joins us now. Still trying to fight the good fight, huh, Governor?
Well, I don't think it's a good idea to let taxpayers have to pay for a new stadium, that's for sure. And I think a lot of we did a poll about a month or so ago, and 2/3 of the voters of Illinois are not for this. They think it's not a good idea. But I said, well, if the Bears want to get this, they ought to put it on the ballot, and let's see how the voters feel.
Yep.
And I filed a ordinance for a citywide referendum on this issue. But we'll hear today all the details. But the details don't sound very good for people who live from paycheck to paycheck, having to pay more.
Well, Kansas City turned it down. The Rams and the Chargers paid it themselves for the new stadium in L.A. Certainly other cities have had taxpayer money. We just live at a time in a city, in a state that, well, we can't afford it. I mean, it's just math.
Well, that's true, but we still owe about $660 million on the rehab of Soldier Field into a spaceship about 25 years ago. That won't be paid off until 2032. And now the Bears want a 40-year deal that would amount, according to the estimates, $2.3 billion from the public. That's just not a good deal for the taxpayer. And as they saw in Kansas City, even though Kansas City's won 3 Super Bowls in 5 years, Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce both were on TV doing commercials telling the voters, vote yes for, stadiums for the Chiefs and for the Royals, Kansas City Royals. And the voters voted it down by a huge margin. So the bottom line is it's not a good deal for taxpayers to have to subsidize these franchises that are worth billions of dollars. They should build their own stadium if that's what they want to do, but not soak the public.
Yeah, and in the process of all of this, the argument is a dome stadium guarantees a Super Bowl. The Super Bowl guarantees hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. Those estimates tend to be, you've been in those meetings as governor, as lieutenant governor, and as elected official, as an elected official, all times where you get promised the moon. It doesn't often happen.
No, and, the proposals always sound good if you say it real fast. And then when you look at all the details, not so good, and then, frankly, that's what happened with the remodeling of Soldier Field. When Soldier Field began, believe it or not, about 100 years ago, there was a referendum, and the voters had to vote on it, yes or no, and they voted yes back, 1924 or whenever it was. But now the mayor, he doesn't want to have a referendum. We've been trying to get him to propose it to the city council and put it on the ballot. If something isn't a good idea, then it's very important to have a referendum like they had in Kansas City, because all these details that are murky now, they come out in the course of a campaign, and the voters know what they're talking about, and they can vote their conscience.
Let's get Jane and Nick in here. Jane?
Well, I think it's smart to let the citizens or the residents of Chicago vote on whether they want to spend more money on it. I'm looking at the dollars. If we're already paying too much in taxes for everything else, and then we're still paying off the remodeling, and then we want to pay some more, like where does it end? Everyone's going to leave the city. So that's not a smart move.
Well, I agree with that. And, there's important issues like public safety and good schools and making sure we, have decent health care for folks. Those are they can be very expensive to invest in that. So you really got to, when you're dealing with government's got to invest its money wisely and not just pour more money into building a stadium that was remodeled 25 years ago. And under their plan, the Bears' plan, they want to tear down the current Soldier Field. They only leave the colonnades and then build a new stadium on the parking lot. So,
Yeah, say goodbye to your parking.
Yeah, right.
Well,
So,
Governor Quinn, most of my decisions now are made on parking.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah. Nick Gale, get in here.
Governor, quick question here. The Trib had a story out this morning that says that the Bears would approach the Illinois General Assembly and kind of want to work out a deal like what happened with Comiskey, right, with the Sports Facilities Authority. So wouldn't we rather have a statewide referendum rather than one that's limited to the voters of Chicago?
Well, I'm all for that. I think it's probably a little easier to get it on the ballot in Chicago, either by petition or resolution. But no, our poll that we did was statewide, and it showed, Nick, that a huge margin by 2-1 voters are not for using taxpayer money to subsidize, the building of a new stadium for the Bears. But, in tearing down what we already did, is not a very prudent thing to do. We just can't be spending unwisely taxpayer money on things that aren't a high priority.
Yeah, 708 texter, politicians treat me like a piggy bank. The bank's broke.
Yeah.
That's one of the texters.
The ATM machine is over. Everyday people who live from paycheck to paycheck should not see their hard-earned money, their tax money, go for things that are really low priority. And the Bears are worth $5.5 billion, their franchise, and it's going up. And, I admire Virginia McCaskey, wonderful person, a charitable person. But the bottom line is I also admire the taxpayers, and I think taxpayers come first over anybody else.
Yeah, and Virginia's not fronting these meetings, just to be clear with folks. Governor Quinn, does Brandon Johnson return your phone calls?
Not so far.
Yep, I wasn't surprised.
So
all right, so this referendum that you support, I support, I think clear-headed folks support. Yeah. How do we get it on the ballot? What do you want the public to do?
Well, aldermen can vote and put it on the ballot. So if you live in Chicago, talk to your alderman. I've done that and try to get the aldermen to vote for it. The deadline is August to put it on the November 5th ballot. And, we have a real good grassroots group. And if we have to petition it, we certainly will consider that. But frankly, reading the Tribune today about $2.3 billion subsidy from taxpayers for the Bears to build a lakefront stadium, I think that's going to fall of its own weight. Nobody's going to vote for that. I was governor 6 years down in Springfield. I think a lot of legislators are not in any way favorable of putting that subsidy together for the Bears.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. So that the governor also appoints this Sports Facility Authority. I appointed that, and why in the world would you give a 40-year extension to something?
I don't know.
To the stadium.
Right.
Yeah.
Governor Pat Quinn, thank you. We'll follow up, and we appreciate you jumping on short notice and keep the fight up.
All right, good to talk to you guys.
Thanks, Governor.
It's Governor Pat Quinn. Nick, wouldn't you think just professional courtesy, the mayor would call a former governor back?
You think so?
Yeah.
Huh.
And yet I'm not surprised.
I'm not
He's
either.
busy, Steve. He's raising a
black
on the
family.
west side of Chicago.
Yeah. So busy he couldn't show up at a dead cop's press conference.